Thank you, Lena. That was wonderful. Let us come together as one to affirm the peace that we hope for this world. Good morning, and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Prescott, Arizona. I'm Mary Ann Erickson, Stewardship Chair and your Worship Associate today. We extend a warm welcome to all. We are really glad you're able to join us. We hope you are happy and in good health. We want to stay connected, so please join us for the breakout rooms after the service. This will give us time to chat with members and friends in small groups. If you are joining us for the first time, please check out our website for more information about Granite Peak at prescottuu.org. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. We extend our thanks to all who contribute to the presentation of our service today, our guest speaker, Sandra Zerner, Heather Knowles for technical direction, and Lena Hubin for her beautiful piano pieces. Although we are physically apart, we are still in community, and we continue with some of our meetings and activities via the internet. So please continue to check the Weekly Peak emailed newsletter, our website, and Facebook pages for announcements. And join our regular weekly Zoom meetings, the Wednesday Granite Peak Politics and Religion Forum at 10 a.m. You can contact Nancy Shagru for the link. Also, the Friday lunch at noon with Elaine Hayes, our board president. You will find connection information and other announcements in our order of service today. Children's faith development will be conducted today at 11:30. Please email Bev Bostrom for the Zoom link. Reverend Patty will not be at the congregation's backyard at 3 p.m. on Sundays in July, as she is away this month. Feel free to meet, however, in her absence. Please remember our at-risk members and friends during Joys and Concerns, and contact Nancy Beeson if you are in need of any help from the caring team. If you have a personal joy or concern for me to share today, please go to the chat, select my name, Mary Ann Erickson, and type in your message. We begin our service in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice. This chalice lighting is from the Oberlin, Ohio UU Fellowship. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Also, to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. I was overjoyed to hear that the NFL has changed their stance on Black Lives Matter. And in reflection of that, they have decided to play at the beginning of each NFL game this next season, if there is one, the Black National Anthem, which is known as Lift Every Voice and Sing. Please enjoy this video. Thank you.
Star is fast. God of the
And now, please join me in saying our covenant, the words of which will appear on the screen in a moment. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, thus do we covenant together. In our community, we make time each week to share pieces of our lives with one another. This message is adapted from the words by Jennifer Grayson. We do this because each person in this community has value. Each person's experience matters. We share our sorrows with one another, knowing that sorrow comes into each person's life, knowing that together we offer comfort. We also share our joys with one another, knowing too that joys come into all our lives, knowing that together our voices can rise in a chorus of celebration. We are very sorry for the loss of Karen Anderson's beloved Dave Pike's father this past week. And we celebrate with Barb and Cal Nye on the event of their 50th wedding anniversary. I need to check the chat for a moment and see if there are any more joys and concerns that have been mentioned. And I don't see any. So let us do our choral response. I'm not a great singer, but I hope those of you with good voices will sing at home. Walking, walking with you is our prayer. Walking, walking with you is our prayer. See what I mean about my voice? Anyway, on to the offertory. This is the time in our service when we normally gather the offering in the sanctuary. Let us embrace the feeling of connection and community that we have when we gather each week. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. We also give back to the greater community through our Seeds of Support program. During the month of July, our recipient is the Coalition for Compassion and Justice, also known as CCJ. Their mission is preventing and ending homelessness in the Quad City area. Please read about CCJ in the order of service. To give during this distance time, please go to prescottuu.org. You can also slip a check in an envelope in the slot of the door in Davis Hall. On the bottom left-hand side of the website, click the word donate to contribute via PayPal. The link is also available in the chat on this video. Please note in the comment box in the PayPal link or on the memo line of your check if your funds are for your pledge, for CCJ as our Seeds of Support for the month, or a donation to Granite Peak. What is given in love is received in gratitude. Blessed be. Please enjoy this offertory music with Dionne Warwick singing What the World Needs Now. I am grateful to Sandra Zerner, who has joined us as our guest speaker today. Sandra and I met swimming and have competed together at regional and national meets. She is also a lay religious leader, writer, triathlete, softball player, barbershop singer, and founder of It's Good to Be Good. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you so much, Marianne. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. So good morning. Thank you for having me, and thank you so much to Marianne for the invitation and for the lovely introduction. Today my topic is, or the title is, as you know, Finding Peace in Politics During a Time of Pandemic, which is a tall order. Before I start, I just have a couple preliminary things I wanted to say. I do not have children, so that won't be an issue, but I do have a dog and a cat, so you may hear them. You won't see them, but you may hear them. The second thing I want to say is that this is a very short period of time for me to be able to convey what I want to convey. So think of this as a Reader's Digest version. Everything I say, every single point I make, there could be 10 additional points. Every single example I give, there's 10 more that I could give. So just know that this is going to be a very brief, abbreviated version of this talk. And the last thing is that if what I say resonates with you, keep it, share it, use it, and if it doesn't, let it go. I always offer that at the beginning of my talks because some of this will resonate with you, and for some of you it won't, and that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so here's what I'm going to talk about today. We're going to start with fear, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what fear is, why it's so prevalent, and why it's so detrimental to us, and how we can move beyond it into peace. And then I'm going to give you one method. We only have time for one, but one method that can help you to move out of fear and into peace. So before I give you the definition of fear, I want to talk about why it's so prevalent. And this is a time where it's especially prevalent because we have a lot of things going on that people might consider to be crisis mode. We've got this worldwide pandemic that is infecting, many, many people all around the world, many people in our country, many people in our state, and the numbers seem to be going up. And so there are a lot of questions like, am I going to get COVID? And if I get it, am I going to die from it? Is it okay for me to leave my house ever again? Is it okay to leave my house to go to the supermarket? Do I need to wear a mask? Is it okay if I don't wear a mask? What do I do if I meet people who are not wearing masks? There's all these questions that stir up the fear. And then when we look in the political arena, politics is always contentious, but today even more so for many reasons. But there's a lot of fear, and I think I just want to focus on one, which is why is it that the political party that I do not belong to is trying to destroy the country? So we're all in a place, and by the way, people in both parties are thinking that. And so we're all living in this place of fear that the world's going to come to an end, or our country's going to come to an end. It's being destroyed. People, are doing all these horrible things. And what about our leadership? So there's a lot of fear around. And one of the reasons why it's so prevalent is because we have made fear a very big part of our culture. So again, I'm going to give you some brief examples, but they're huge to show you how we make fear part of everything. We entertain ourselves with fear. So if you have Netflix, I offer you this challenge, go to Netflix, look up all the movies that are currently playing and that are scheduled to come out in the near future, and just take a look and see how many of these movies have a theme of violence, crime, suspense, murder. Those will seem to be the majority of them. So that's just movies. Then we look at TV shows. And again, you can, at any time of day, turn on your TV, go to the guide, look at all the programs that are currently playing at this moment in time, whatever moment you choose. You could do this 24/7. At any time of day, any day of the week, you will see that the majority of the TV shows have a theme of crime, violence, suspense, murder, mystery. That's quite a big percentage of them. So that's movies and TV. And then we look at books. And even the books we read for pleasure are focused on crime and violence and instilling fear in us. And what's one of the most popular genres of books? Murder mysteries. We relax ourselves by reading about murder. And there's even games that are based on that. So like you may have played Clue at some point in your lives, the board game Clue. And there are actually murder mystery parties. You can go to, I was invited to one a couple weeks ago. People get together and people are assigned roles, and one is the murderer and one is the victim. And then we're all given clues and we try to figure out who committed the murder. This is considered fun. This is considered entertainment in our culture. Now, one of the worst ones we didn't experience, luckily, because they didn't come out until we were already adults, and that's video games. But kids are being immersed in these video games that are focused on crime and shooting people, and you know, how many people can you shoot in a certain period of time to get up to the next level, and it's an issue. And then the last area that is an example of all the crime and violence and fear instilled in us is the media. So we have to acknowledge that the media is a business. Their bottom line is bringing in the ratings, right, to keep in business. And they know that the way to get people to watch their shows, their news shows, is by showing all the crime and the violence. You know, you watch the news, the top stories are the latest shooting, the latest murder, the latest crime, you know, that's what they focus on, because they know, you've probably heard that phrase, if it bleeds, it leads. So here we are in a culture that glorifies violence, and what does violence do? It makes us afraid. So we're living in a culture of fear. By the way, it's an interesting question, and maybe for another time. Why do we do this to ourselves? Why do we like to instill fear in us for pleasure, for entertainment? I don't know if you've ever wondered about that question, but I have, and I still don't have an answer, but it's an interesting topic to discuss, why we do this. But we do it. So here we have fear is a big part of our culture. So now let me go to a definition of fear. So there are many definitions of fear, but this is one that is very powerful to me, and that is, fear is the energy which causes us to contract, to close down, to draw in, to run away, to hide, to hoard, and to harm. Fear is an energy that has all these negative reactions or consequences to it, because that's what fear is. It's a negative way of being. It's a harmful way of being. The last one is harm. Not only does fear harm us when we're afraid, but it harms others, because when we're afraid, it gives us permission to hurt somebody else, right? How many times have you heard somebody interviewed about a crime or something that happened, or you just know in your personal life who said, I had the right to do X to so-and-so because they did X to me. And I was afraid and I had to protect myself. So I did X. It's very common. So here we have this energy, fear, that causes us to do all these negative things and hurts ourselves and hurts others. So that's why it's so detrimental. We need to move beyond it. It's a very primitive energy, and it does, not only does it not help us, it hurts us, but we want an energy that helps us, because we want to move forward, right? That's why we're here. We're here to evolve individually, as souls, as spirits, as entities. We want to evolve in our own lives, but we also want to evolve our society. We want our society to be better. We want to move beyond these things that hold us back, that hold us down. And so how do we do that? Well, one of the energies that is beyond fear, and let me give you an analogy. So I'm going to cover up the screen for a second. So it's going to be dark, but you'll still hear me. Okay, so I'm holding something in front of the screen, and if you look carefully, you can see pixels, individual pixels, right? So if you look at them, you have a very limited perspective of what that is that you're looking at. But I'm going to pull it back very slowly, and you're going to see that as I pull it back, it's actually a bird. So I'm going to put it close again. You can see the individual pixels. You have no idea what you're looking at. And then we pull it back. It's a beautiful bird. What happens is when we live in fear, we're limiting our perspective. We're only seeing the pixels. We don't get to see the whole picture, but we want to see the whole picture. And so one of the ways to do that is to move into a different energy, which is peace. Peace is a larger, more productive, more powerful, and more positive energy. And that's what we all want. And I know your group is all about finding peace and creating peace. So that's what I want to help you to get to. So what I want to do is offer you a method that could be of help to you. In order to do that, I want to go back to, I want to say that this is based on the premise that peace is an inside job. Now that might be an issue for some of you. You may have a conflict with it because we all have been raised with the idea or taught or learned somewhere along the way that it's about them. If we want to have peace, we have to fix them. We have to change them. They're the ones that are causing the problems. If we could only change them, we'll have peace. And that's a myth. It's not true. Peace starts with you. Peace has to start inside. It's an inside job. And in order to do that, in order to find the peace, we have to take a step that I haven't seen this talked about. Maybe you have. Maybe you've experimented with it before, but this was new to me, but very helpful. So when we are born and we live the first 6 years of our lives, our brains are like a tape recorder that doesn't turn off. And so we record everything we hear from birth to the age of 6, and it goes into our brain and it stays there. And we don't judge it and we don't question it. It's unquestioned, just take it in. And so a lot of what we believe about life comes from those early years when we heard ideas and beliefs spoken by our parents and maybe taught to us by our parents. So let me give you some examples of how this can manifest. So let's say you had a mother, and it's usually the mothers who raise us and who love us, and I acknowledge they love us and they care about us and they're doing it from a place of love. But they're worried about us and they want us to be safe. So every time we leave the house, they say, take a sweater with you, you're going to catch a cold, or you're going to catch pneumonia, or look both ways before you cross the street, or don't talk to strangers. All these things that we're taught when we're very young, we don't question it in the beginning, and they come in and they become part of us. Or maybe they had other core beliefs about life. Because really what happens is we have core beliefs about life, about God, and about the world. Now you may not believe in God, and that's fine, but you may have shifted those beliefs about God to other things. But it's very important for us to know what those core beliefs are, because when we're not aware of them, they drive our behavior without us realizing what's driving our behavior. And they impact our life. It's based on our core beliefs. So here's some examples of core beliefs that your parents may have instilled in you without even realizing it. The world is a dangerous place. Life is beautiful. God will always be there for you. Watch out, God's always watching. People are kind. Everybody's out to get you. So these are just a few examples of some of the beliefs that we have running around in our head that are influencing every single decision we make and every single act we do without our even realizing it. What's important is to go back and look at them and question them. And so what I would like to encourage you to do is to take some time and take these 3 categories, God, life, and the world, and ask yourself, what do I believe about life? What do I believe about the world? What do I believe about God, if you believe in God? What are your beliefs? Maybe you've never examined them before, but it's time to do that, because if you don't do it, it will be decided for you. We're coming into a time, we've been coming into a time where decisions are being made all over the place about what life is going to be and what this country is going to be and everything. And it will be decided for you if you don't decide for yourself. So it's important that you go there. So look at these questions and ask yourself, do I believe that the world is a dangerous place? And if I do, how does that manifest in my life? And it can affect, oh, here's another basic belief that's very common. I don't deserve to be happy. You need to ask yourself that. Do I believe I deserve to be happy? Because if you unconsciously, and it's all unconscious, so if you unconsciously believe that you don't deserve to be happy, then every single positive opportunity that comes your way, you're going to find a way to reject it. So if a job opportunity comes, you're going to come up with an excuse not to take it. If somebody comes into your life you could have a wonderful relationship with, you're not going to take it, you're going to reject them. If money comes into your life, either you won't accept the money or you'll find ways to get rid of it. There are many stories of people who've won the lottery where they spend their money, all of their money, within like a couple of years, it's gone. Because ultimately, deep down, without realizing it, it's all unconscious. They didn't really feel like they deserved to have it. And so they got rid of it. It went away. So this is the first step, is look at your core values and ask yourself, what do I believe? Now, once you identify these core beliefs, then you ask yourself, are these beliefs still serving me? Are they still serving me? Are they doing me any good? Or are they keeping me down? Are they holding me back from what I could really be? And once you acknowledge or recognize that they're holding you back, that's a huge positive moment, because that gives you a power moment where you can say, I have a choice. I do not want to hold on to that belief anymore. I'm ready to let it go. And I'm ready to take on a new belief. And we do have the power to change our beliefs. We really do. Even the most core beliefs that we have, we can change them. We can change our beliefs. We can change our thoughts. That's all been documented now. And I have a perfect example from my own life. For the first part of my life, up until my mid-30s, I lived in fear every moment of every day. That's how I grew up and I know it came from my earliest moments of being raised as a child. I was always afraid, and I had parents who, they did the best they could. They loved me in the way they knew how, but they didn't know how to comfort me. And I learned to feel ashamed of fear, and it just kind of exacerbated the situation. And I was just always waiting. A friend said this to me once. She said, "You're always waiting for the next major disaster. That's how you live your life." And it was totally true. I was just always waiting on edge. And then I was in the middle of a major disaster. I was at the epicenter of a major earthquake, the 1994 Northridge earthquake in Los Angeles. And I lost my home and everything I had, and I was severely traumatized by the experience. And I couldn't recover because there were constant aftershocks. There were thousands and thousands of aftershocks following the earthquake. And so I just couldn't relax, and I did realize I needed to live somewhere else. So I moved to Phoenix. And about a year after I was in Phoenix, I realized that I was suffering from PTSD from the earthquake. So I went to therapy, and I did a special therapy for trauma, and it helped a lot. And I worked with the therapist for several years after that. And I learned that I live in fear all the time. And it occurred to me for the first time, maybe I don't have to live in fear. Like, would the world still be there if I wasn't holding on so tight? Well, let me see what would happen. So I remember the first time I tried, like, for an hour, just to see if I could survive for an hour without being in fear. And I did it. And I remember at the end of the hour, it's like I looked around and I went, oh my God, everything's still here. And wow, that was, and I felt good. And so I tried it again, and eventually expanded the time. And eventually I realized that, wow, living in fear is a choice, and I could make a different choice. And my life just exploded I went through a metamorphosis after that. And it was such a huge awakening moment for me. It changed my life, because from that point on, I made the decision I will never live in fear again. And I haven't. Now, I want to clarify, because some of you are going to this place, that there are times where it's okay to be afraid, where you should be afraid. Well, there is one, and that is the one time where you are face to face with a life and death situation, such as you're in front of a bear or a lion or a tiger or something to that effect, right? You're in the moment. You are about to die based on the situation right there. That is a legitimate time to be afraid. And I would be afraid if that happened to me. But that's extremely rare. It's extremely rare. Most of the fears that we face on a daily basis are not those fears. The other thing to know, just an interesting fact, that we are only born with two fears. One is falling, and one is loud noises. We are born into this world fearing falling and loud noises, and that's it. So any fear that doesn't involve those two things are not innate. They're taught to us. Okay, so we have the ability to choose differently. And I chose to change my belief that the world is a dangerous place and that I have to live in fear, and it's worked. So that's what I want to offer. That's what I want to offer you, is this method of asking yourself, do I have core beliefs that are holding me back, that are limiting me? Am I willing to go inside and look at them and acknowledge them? And am I willing to change them if I don't like them, and move to a higher, better belief that will help you to succeed and achieve more in your life, and not necessarily financially. We're talking about all areas, including peace, bringing you to a more peaceful place, because the more that you're aware of your core beliefs and you choose them, the more at peace you will be. And then the way peace works is it doesn't start from the top, it starts from us. And so each of us individually becomes more at peace. And then the things outside of us don't frighten us, like pandemics and politics and all of the things that are going on that you see other people freaking out about. You don't freak out about it, because you're in a peaceful place. And then people around you start noticing. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it happens. And people start noticing that you're becoming more peaceful, and they'll start to say, I notice you're not like freaking out like you used to. What's going on? And they'll ask you about it. And then you get to share. And it impacts them. And even if they don't verbalize it, still there's an energy that emanates from you that is an emanation of peace. And you feel it. You notice everybody you talk to that you're with has an energy. There are people who put off a very negative energy, a very fearful energy, a very insecure energy. People have different energies. But when you meet someone who's totally at peace, oh my gosh, it's so powerful. And you just so want to be with them. And so that's what happens. And so your peace emanates and ripples out, because other people want to be around you. And then they start inquiring about how you did, and they want to be there. And then the people that they're around it starts impacting them, and then those people and those people. And it's like if you picture a lake, you throw a rock in it and the water ripples out from the rock, more and more and more ripples. And the more of us that do this individually, then we start finding other people that are like us, that resonate with us. And then we form small groups, and then small groups become larger groups. And little by little, those groups start to have more influence, and things change because of that. So that's what I want to encourage you to do, is to get to a place of peace by looking at your core beliefs and changing them if they don't work for you. And there's an even larger energy, even bigger than peace, that encompasses peace, but it's even bigger than that, and that's love. So love encompasses peace, but it also encompasses compassion and caring and empathy and gratitude and grace and generosity, all these wonderful things. The opposite of fear is love. In fact, there are only two emotions in the world: fear and love. Everything else is a manifestation of one of those. So what I encourage you to do is ultimately find peace and ultimately get to love, because it's important that we all choose love. And now I'd like to show a song that has this message in it. It's called I Choose Love by Sean Galloway.
Thank you, Sandra. Your message was terrific and very inspirational. The video that you chose for us had great images and wonderful words. These closing words are adapted from words by Jane Malden. For our community gathered here, for the spirit that called us together and drew us to this place, for moments we have shared with others, for times when we have reached out across barriers of distance and fear, for times when others have reached out to us, for moments when we have discovered another along our path, for this community of celebration and growth, introspection and solitude, and for those moments of that peace which passes all understanding, for our gathering together out of distant places, for our weaving together out of many separate selves, this hour of celebration and worship. We give thanks this day. And now let's listen to Lena on the piano again. Thank you. That was terrific, Lena. We are so blessed to have you playing piano for our services. It's a real gift. We're now going to extinguish the chalice, and the words will come on the screen for you to read at home. along with me. And here they are. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.